The business of live music has never looked quite like this. Stadium tours like Taylor Swift's Eras Tour are breaking records, ticket prices are breaking wallets, platforms like Ticketmaster are under greater scrutiny, and new venues like the Sphere are redefining what a concert can be. Artists are playing fewer cities, but staying longer. Fans are turning travel plans into world tours of their own. And behind it all, the economics, the logistics, the expectations of touring, they're all shifting in real time. So how did we get here? And what's next for the live music business? Welcome back to On The Record, a music business podcast from Billboard and SickBird Productions. As always, I'm your host, Kristin Robinson, and today we're joined by two of the most legendary agents in music, Rob Light and Rick Roskin of CAA. Rob Light is the partner and managing director of CAA, and he's spent his career building up the touring businesses of some of the biggest artists in the history of music, from Fleetwood Mac, Bruce Springsteen, Beyonce, AC/DC, One Direction, Katy Perry, 21 Pilots, Ariana Grande, and many more. He was also CAA's longtime global head of touring, a role which he has since passed down to our other guest this week, Rick Roskin. Rick now shares the global head of touring title with two others, Emma Banks and Daryl Eaton, and brings his own wealth of experience to the top job, working with a roster of clients like Eric Clapton, Santana, Kesha, Kelly Clarkson, Slipknot, the Black Keys, Fiona Apple, Iron Maiden, and more. So, all this to say, we're in very good hands here as we explore the ways that live music has changed post-pandemic. There's almost too much to talk about, honestly, but we'll try to cover as many bases as we can here today. So, without further ado, let's bring them in. Rob Light, Rick Roskin, welcome to On The Record. Thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So I wanted to start off with something a little bit fun. I want to know why you got into this business. Was there a certain concert that you saw that really changed things for you and made you think, I want to work in live music?
I just actually posted this back in August. When I was 17, 50 years ago, I went to see Bruce Springsteen play at the Bottom Line. It was August 17th, 1975, and still have the ticket framed in my office. And I went home after and told my dad, I'm going to work in the music industry. And he said, what does that mean? I go, I don't really know, but I want to be a part of this. And from there, went to college, became a concert promoter in school, and got a job in a mailroom.
Wow. And also, I mean, obviously, you now work with Bruce Springsteen.
And now I get to work with Bruce Springsteen,
That's incredible.
Which is the greatest full circle story of life, yes.
Yeah, and when did you start working with him?
20 years ago, 18 years ago. Yeah.
Incredible. And Rick, what about you? What was the concert that really changed
it for you? A very similar thing. I went and saw Cheap Trick in 1978. I think I was 12. And I was blown away. It was my first concert I've ever seen. Like Rob, I was fortunate enough to work with the band in my future, and I kind of knew this was what I wanted to do as well. I didn't know how. Like everyone in our business, I was a failed musician, and same thing. Started in the mailroom right out of college, and have been at CAA my entire career.
Wow. Okay,
and I Want You to Want Me is his go-to karaoke song.
That is true.
I'm just going to put that out there for the record.
Have you done it in front of the band?
I definitely have not.
Okay, we got to get that to happen. That would be very funny. Okay, so y'all both started in the mailroom, and I'm wondering, what was the mailroom like? Any horror stories from back in the day of trying to get your start as an agent?
The mailroom 50 years ago was not what it is today. Now it's a very coordinated program where we're really trying to train people and develop them. When I started, we were literally just messengers, and I was in New York delivering packages and almost quit after the first week because I'd promoted so many shows in school I couldn't believe they were actually, in my arrogant head at the time, that they were wasting my talent delivering packages across Manhattan. But a desk opened up a week after I got there with a great agent who had just been transferred from the West Coast, and I was an assistant a week later and very quickly moved. But that could happen back then. It's much harder to do now, but back then in 1978, the whole process of being an agent was new. So.
Yeah, Rick, what about you? How long were you in the mailroom?
I was in the mailroom about 6 months. It was it's very different from what it's like being in the mailroom now. You have to remember there were no cell phones, there were no fax machines. We received offers on telex, which is like basically getting a letter by Pony Express. And, we just functioned as the cleaning staff, the shopping staff. We copied everything. We delivered everything. We were the internal engine of the company. That is now shifted to where, obviously the company's gotten so much larger. But it was a great experience. I knew nothing about the entertainment business when I started. My interview was basically, do you have a car? And I said yes. And you learn so much, and it was such a great way to get a sense of every area of entertainment. And I always knew I wanted to be in music, and got out 6 months later and got a desk and worked for Mitch Rose, who is one of our partners to this day.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. That's really interesting. So the reason why I wanted to have you guys both here today is to talk about how touring is changing and how live music is changing. It really feels like the last 5 years have been super volatile. I mean, we started this decade with the pandemic and a total shutdown of concerts for a little bit, at least. And now we've made our way out of that, and things just seem to be changing a lot. Like right before we started recording, we were even talking about how far out y'all are booking shows. I was wondering if we could actually start there. If Rob, you could kind of talk more about that. Like at this point, how far out are you booking, and why is it such a wide span at this point?
Well, if I could put that question back and just say one thing prior, because you sort of set us up post-COVID. If you look at the industry, live music and everything live, experiential, while important to a younger generation, we were a very materialistic society towards the end of the century and even into the early 2000s. And somewhere 2010, 2015, we became an experiential society, not materialistic. Every generation wanted experiences. Even as the baby boomers like myself got older, we wanted experiences. Suddenly having an extra car or some fancy watch didn't mean as much as I want to go do something. And that combined with COVID taking it all away, all those experiences didn't exist. You couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't do anything. That when it was over, it suddenly created this boom of, I need to go do things. Who knows when I'll get to do them again? And so generationally, it just took on this life of, I want to go out, and I want to be at a festival. I want to be with my peers. I want to be communal, because we couldn't be communal during COVID. And that drove an opportunity beyond anybody's vision of, I don't even think Live Nation or AEG could have envisioned where we are today. But now you have all those experiences. Everybody wants to be on tour. And that just leads to the mechanics of, well, are there stadiums available? Are there arenas available? I better plan way in advance because I want to get the best days of the week. And monetarily, touring became literally the biggest revenue stream for most artists. It's roughly 80 to 85, 90% of their revenue stream. So you take the money they're going to earn, the lead time it takes to book a tour, the amount of artists touring, and the basic amount of consumption the consumer wants, they can't get enough, just led to this unbelievable explosion of live. And I think the whole industry, all boats rise when one rises. And so everybody's benefited from it.
And going back to the start of the pandemic, I imagine, both of you guys were very closely watching as it developed. I'm wondering, what was the point when you guys noticed that this was not just, we need to cancel some shows for the next few weeks. This is something that's going to impact potentially the whole year and into the next year.
It was such a, obviously something none of us have ever experienced. And I think what happened was, we were always trying to be optimistic, and we had so much stuff that were, tours that were routed and bands who were coming out and, reunions being announced and all these things. And we hit a wall. So because there was no, real timeline, we just kept moving and moving and moving until we finally got to a point where we're like, let's hit the brakes for a minute and just see where this shakes out, because we had no idea just like everyone else, when this was going to end. And it started as months, and then it was 3 months, and then 6 months, and then next thing you know, you're still at home a year later. So I think there was no gauge of what that was. We just kind of stayed in touch with our clients. We continued to function on growing our business and making key acquisitions in terms of agents that we hired, and just being active when you really couldn't be proactive in terms of touring.
There was a great lesson, one thing Rick just said, in that moment when it looked like the business was just going to shrink to nothing and nobody knew how long it was going to last. Most companies got very destabilized. They just didn't know what the next move was. And I give Rick and his partner, Daryl Eaton, who now run worldwide music with Emma Banks, they said, no, we're going to go higher. When everybody is sort of contracting and like, what do we do? We knew it was going to end. We didn't know when. And so they very quickly went out and convinced a lot of great agents who were looking to make transitions to come into CAA. We met every week. We would have a meeting with every client, like management meetings. Even though there wasn't always something to talk about, we wanted them to feel empowered. So whether it was podcasts or book deals, we just wanted them to know there was going to be an end to this and we were going to come out of it. And it actually was a huge growth window for us when most companies were contracting, because we saw the end. The other thing is we had an advantage by having a huge sports division. We were able to sort of follow what sports was doing. So when baseball shut down and football shut down, we sort of went, okay, we're not going anywhere. But we got insights, and they were going to start to play some football games in the South, and they were going to start to play some baseball games. And we realized the country was going to open up. And we actually had one of the first major tours with Green Day and Fall Out Boy and playing stadiums right coming out of it, because we saw these buildings were opening up, and they were gung-ho to go play, and the tour did amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and also I remember so well during the pandemic when artists started doing these, you know, whether it's like a live stream concert or collaborating with a video game like Fortnite. Was that also under y'all's domain as agents, or was that handled by other parts of an artist team?
No, we were involved in that, and certainly the live streaming, and that was definitely a consequence of COVID. And I think that is still obviously a good business. But, the minute the business came back, as Rob said earlier, it was about connection. It was about being around people. That's what concerts are, and that's what live is. It's about community, and it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Every show is different. Every game you see is different. Every experience is different. So I think it was such pent up demand that it was, the Wild West or the Roaring 20s or whatever it was. We've definitely lived that.
Yeah. And I mean, there were a few artists that blew up during the pandemic. And so I think for those artists that kind of had their rise at that time, they didn't get to go through the traditional steps that you do with live, where you start in your small venues, you suck for a little while maybe, you're trying to get your footing as an artist, and then eventually you gain your audience and you work up to bigger venues. I mean, some of these artists just didn't get to do their 10,000 hours. I'm wondering, as agents, like, how did you work with those newer artists once the pandemic lifted and they were all of a sudden playing sizable shows? How did you prepare them for that?
I don't know that we prepare them as much as their entire team does. I agree with you. They didn't have the benefit of using the club system and the theater system. But generationally, these artists have been playing music since they're young. They've always dreamed about this. So they were a bit more prepared. I think we were very diligent in terms of not stepping too far beyond where they should have been and allowing them to have that experience. We were very concerned about ticket pricing at that time. We just didn't know how quick they would come back. Packaging became really critical in that moment of who was playing with who. And of course, when the festivals came back, it was sort of the great boom of all those acts now got to be exposed. But in career development, it's usually a great team of people. You've got great management, you've got great agents, you've got a record company who has a point of view, and we're all sort of collaborating to protect those artists and give them the best platform to succeed. That's all we've ever tried to do, is put them in a position where they can win.
and being, you know, intentional about taking steps, you know, hitting the right steps and growing a career and really thinking long term instead of trying to sweep everything, you know, off the table in the first go round. Really trying to be smart and intentional and build artists' careers, because, you know, we've had artists we've represented for 35 years. And I think that is not only the reward, but if you do it right, you can accomplish every goal that an artist is looking for.
And I have always found it so fascinating, like how you guys decide what size of venues an artist is ready for. Because sometimes an artist does really well on streaming, or they do really well on social media, and those metrics are very visible to the public. So they seem like they're ready for a huge venue, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes if you actually put up those ticket sales for an arena venue, they actually couldn't sell it out. So on the back end, how do you as agents try to gauge what an artist is actually ready to sell out?
Well, you have a lot of data, which we never used to have it at your fingertips. But some of it is a gut instinct of what are you trying to do over a 2 or 3 year cycle. When Dua Lipa had No Rules, and that record had exploded, and she was doing unbelievable business in theaters in America. We were getting to the end of that tour, and there were people around her saying, we should go play the Forum. Let's end at the Forum. And we very specifically said, if we move to an arena, where do we go next? Let's end, and we played the Palladium for 2 nights, which became 2 of the greatest shows I'd ever seen. The place was packed. Every celebrity was there. It was sweaty. It was just an incredible 2 nights. But that allowed us on the next record to put up an arena tour and say, okay, we had moved from being special guests and playing clubs to playing big theaters, and now we set it up to go to that next level. And so Rick used a great word, intentional. We're always trying to think, what's the next step? Where do we go to? So when you're going to make a move from theater to arena or arena to stadium, you want to take that data and make sure you're going to get there. You want to price the tickets correctly, but you want it to feel like a statement. And so a lot of it is, when is it going to have the most impact? To just suddenly move in the middle of a tour with no sort of impact of it doesn't always work. So, but there are a lot of people who weigh in on that.
Yeah.
And post-COVID, and Rob just said it, you know, you have to make a statement, because volume, there's a ton of volume. I mean, you can look at what plays in every city on a weekly basis, and there are a ton of shows. So somehow you have to figure out a way to cut through the clutter and break through and get noticed, and have your fans be aware and really make a statement.
A great example of that 3 summers ago was Harry Styles and his management team. You know, Full Stop and Jeffrey. Everybody was playing stadiums, and Harry easily could have sold out 2 or 3 or 4 nights at MetLife Stadium, but everybody was playing MetLife Stadium. It wasn't even a big event because everybody was doing it, and they brilliantly come up with the idea of, let's do 15 nights at Madison Square Garden. And he owned New York. Didn't matter who was playing the stadiums. Everybody was talking about that move, and so it was a huge statement and intentional, and at the time sort of caught everybody, oh my God, this is, you know, what a standout moment in New York City. So I really do believe, you know, trying to find those moments are really part of our job. You can't create them every day, and you can't create them on every tour, but any moves you're making should hopefully lead to something. So.
And the statement for those people to say, I was there. You know, I saw that show. You know, like Rob can say he saw Bruce Springsteen at the Bottom Line, which about 10 billion people say. You know, but to actually,
But I have a ticket.
But to actually say it
Proof.
is different, and I think that's the moment too. And you as you build audience, having your fans feel like they're connected and say, I was there, is so important as you build artists.
I'll give you another great example. You know, 3 years ago, Sabrina Carpenter, who's been working at this for a long time, she is smart and creative, and she gets the 3rd from the top slot on Coachella, and she took every dollar of her fee and put it into that stage and into her set, and it was epic. It was one of those performances that people still talk about, for somebody who's not headlining to break through. And that set her on a path that's just undeniable. 4 nights at the Garden, 5 nights at 5 nights at the Garden, 6 nights at the Forum. I think all came out of that moment.
And headlining Coachella this year.
Yeah, and then headlining Coachella this year.
Yep.
So.
I love that people are recirculating clips from the past Coachella performance that Sabrina Carpenter did, where she talks about how she's like, next time I see you, I'll be headlining.
Right.
And then she came back 1 year later, exactly, and did it.
So it's always great when you have an artist who's unbelievably talented and then creative and smart at the same time. It all really played well for her.
I also say, talent and ambition are a dangerous combination. They really are.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, one of the things that you guys touched on that I have found to be really fascinating is, Harry Styles doing all of those dates at Madison Square Garden. We're starting to see more and more artists do almost like mini residencies in different markets. I find it really fascinating that LCD Sound System goes back to New York every December, it seems like now, and plays through a ton of different shows. We're also seeing artists like Beyonce maybe doing fewer cities, but more dates within those cities. I'm wondering, why do you think that's occurring now?
Well, I think the cost of touring has gone up exponentially, and the size of these productions becomes more and more intricate, that if you can sit in one place, you can actually make them a little bigger and make them way more impactful, and the audience is willing to come to you. So, if Beyonce goes into New York for a week and a half or 2 weeks, Boston, Washington, Philly, they're all going to come to her if that's the only place to see it. So there's a cost factor, and then there's a wear and tear on people's lives. If you've got children and any other part of your life, sitting in one place actually makes it more palatable. I don't think the day-to-day play a city, get on the bus and go to the next city is ever going to go away.
Yeah.
But if you have control of your environment and your career path and you're at that moment, it's certainly easier to tour, and then it makes that statement. It's just a big, big difference. So
and to get technical, a huge tour 8 years ago, 10 years ago was like 13 trucks. I mean, that would be like, oh my God, that is a massive tour. And this is like semi trucks. Tours now are carrying 30, 40, 50, trucks of production.
Yeah.
And, to move that is incredibly expensive. And, it's just, again, everything has been amped up. So in this boom post-COVID, artists are taking it to a level that no one's ever seen before. One of our colleagues took his daughter to her first concert, which was Benson Boone. And he's like, it was amazing, but now every time she sees a show, she's like, why isn't anyone swinging from a chandelier across the audience? So
no backflips?
Yeah, so you're seeing these things happen in our business that are so amazing, but it is expensive and there is a cost to that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the amount of trucks is absolutely crazy to me. But
I think the weekend on the stadium tour is 60.
60.
The other thing too is if you go back 20 or 30 years, a band like Bon Jovi would do 150 shows in 150 cities and play the whole world in order to break the world, not just break North America. Now, because of social media and the way you can interact with your fans, you don't have to do that as much to talk to the whole universe, because people are seeing the clips every night anyway, and it's sort of what drives it. It's not unlike the movie business. When it's great, the word of mouth. So whether it's Dua or it's Sabrina or it's Gracie Taylor, I mean, the shows are so powerful. And that video gets out and it just drives ticket sales. So it's a lot easier to cover more ground with less cities than it used to be, which then creates a void in those markets for other bands to go in and play. So you're sort of adapting to it. And a lot of the older acts and heritage rock bands will go into those markets and do great. So
yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to go back to Coachella, which we talked about a little bit earlier. So Coachella decided to put its tickets for 2026 Coachella on sale very early this year. I have to say, I read that at the time as them maybe being nervous about not selling out. I know that that's been an increasing issue for them over the last few years. But Coachella 2026 sold out pretty immediately. I'm wondering, why do you guys think it sold so quickly? Why did it do so well? Is it the lineup? Is it increased interest in festivals again? What do you attribute that to?
Well, nothing replaces star power, and it's a great lineup. Let's be fair. I think part of going earlier is they realize the public is getting more and more trained to buying earlier. And so waiting till January seems really late in the cycle. And Coachella's always wanted to be first. They wanted to sort of make a statement about the festival season. And, when they knew they had Justin Bieber, who hadn't done anything for a long time and had these two great records come out, you wanted to go early. You wanted to say, we're going to be the most important festival of the year. Now, I'm sure Lolla feels different, and this one, they all feel like they have, and they're all incredible festivals. But it was a great opportunity to make a statement, and the public's waiting. So, they want to buy in advance. They want to make those plans. They want to be able to travel. I think it was very smart on Paul and his team's part to go earlier. And they had also seen that from Stagecoach. Stagecoach had always been going earlier. So I think it was a smart move. When you have the lineup they have, Sabrina and Justin, you're going to do great. So why not go early and let the public make plans?
Yeah. To me, festivals kind of feel like the perfect thing in this moment, given they're kind of a bang for your buck. And also in a time when people are willing to travel to concerts and travel to the shows that they want to see, it feels kind of perfect. But yet it seems like ticket sales have been a little bit soft with festivals recently. It doesn't seem like it's quite as hot as it was in the 2010s. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm wondering why that seems to be happening right now.
There's a lot of factors. Anytime you ask a question like that, there's no one answer that fills the void.
Yeah.
Part of it is you've got so many shows and ticket prices have gone up. So there's an actual, how much money do I have? And I got to pick and choose where I'm going to go. Part of it is who the headliners are. And then there was just a proliferation of festivals. So they were everywhere. So you couldn't go to everyone.
Yeah.
And so when you feel some of the softness on the edges, it's really a function of I can't be at every one. I'm going to pick and choose, and they got more regional. The granddaddies, the Lollapaloozas and the Coachellas and the giant ones in Europe, they have such institutional knowledge of what it's going to be and the fans do that it's almost a rite of passage. It's why you see so many high school kids. I think LA now closes all the school systems the Monday after Coachella because they know the kids are going to go, and it is a rite of passage. But yet, I think all the festivals have done a great job bringing older talent in. When David Byrne plays at Coachella or Brian Ferry plays at a festival, I think it's great because those kids know those bands. They've actually gone and discovered them. And it's somewhat cyclical, and so, but I don't think festivals are ever going away. The one thing that AI can't touch, computers can't touch, live music is live music. And there's nothing you can put in its place. I don't care how cool it looks on a screen this big. The reality is it's not the same. And I actually feel as kids get more detached because of social media, festivals are the one thing that bring them back together. It is the thing that allows them to share a common experience. And we're constantly trying to create that Bruce Springsteen moment for me. I was there. And
also, you cannot understate the complexity of curating these events.
Yeah.
I mean, it is an overwhelming undertaking from, a Coachella lineup to a See Here Now lineup. There are great festivals that happen all over the country, and it is really, really hard to thread the needle and kind of see what the audience is doing and see how Coachella has changed and what they're putting on the show. And, everything is constantly evolving as, hip hop was here, it's gone down, and now electronic, which was here, has gone down, and now it's back, and Anima's one of the headliners. So there's so much that goes into knowing the marketplace and knowing the audience, because the audiences have gotten younger at the festivals. So I don't see it as much, but if you go to Lolla or Govball or Coachella, it is it's young kids, and that's just a different type of curation. But at Coachella last year, when Dudamel's playing with the LA Phil and it's packed, I thought that was amazing. So I give huge credit to the people who curate these festivals. It is a daunting task, and they do it incredibly well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it really is a daunting task. And I mean, especially with a thing like Coachella, you have all different genres. You're trying to target all different ages and demographics to try to get everyone there at the same time. I think that's why I love Coachella so much, is because I feel like I can go there and discover things that I did not show up for, but it's there. So, if I'm walking past the tent, why not go inside, right, check it out for a little bit, and then maybe I become a fan. But I think one of the things that I've been hearing from some of our live music reporters here is that there are people showing up later and later to festivals during the day, which means that those baby artists who are at the bottom of the billing and at the top of the day are maybe having less crowds. I mean, they've always had very sparse crowds at that. But I'm wondering, do you still think that for your emerging artists at CAA that being on those festival lineups is still worthwhile as it once was?
Well, I've said this for years about those slots. And this is where agenting really plays a role in the artist development of a career. Part of getting on a festival is being on the poster. You want to be part of that.
Yeah,
and
true.
Playing at 12 or 1 or 2 o'clock may not be great, but a great agent is going to stop and say, how do I get back to that market within 4 or 5 months of having done that gig? Mm-hmm. Because the 2,000 or 3,000 kids who might have seen me and have told their friends now want to be able to see them on their own. And so to just show up anywhere and play one date at 2 o'clock and then disappear for a year is bad management, bad agenting. If you're going to get one of those slots, how am I going to take advantage of that moment and make other things happen off the back of it? What am I going to do on social media? Am I going to show up at late night events? The beauty of Lollapalooza is all the late night club gigs. So mm-hmm. all those bands get to find places to play. And so I think there is a real, it's where the representation comes in taking advantage of a moment. Unto itself, no, it's not the greatest spot in the world. Mm-hmm. But if it's done right and you really have good people around you, you can really turn it into something. Mm-hmm. And you can chart the bands who are on early and then played 6 or 7 o'clock and then 4 years later are headlining. Mm-hmm. That's the track.
I think the headline slot is such a fascinating thing. There's so few artists who are able to hold that, especially at one of the premier festivals like your Coachellas of the world, your Glastonburys. I'm wondering, in those negotiations, when someone's approached you and said, we want your artist to headline, I know you've done this with Beyonce, what are some of the things that you can negotiate back and forth? Is it stuff that she can bring on stage? Is it the fees? I know there's so many considerations. So can you give us any sort of peek behind the curtain and how that works?
I don't want to get into the specifics of a deal. When Beyonce did Homecoming, which I still think might be one of the greatest ever, single performances at a festival, she really wanted a second stage, and they had never done one. Mm. It was the first time they ever let an artist do it. And she had a vision, and to her credit, in rehearsal, she brought Paul Tollett down to see it, what she was going to do. And he said, I'm going to let it happen. Well, now it's sort of commonplace to do it. Mm-hmm. Gaga took it to a whole new level this year in one of the most, epic performances at a festival. So, you're always looking for those opportunities. The secret sauce to Coachella and a couple of festivals is also the YouTube broadcast. Because worldwide, Coachella is now a worldwide moment. Mm-hmm. Everybody who's not there is watching. And so you're not just talking to the 100,000 people, you're talking to millions of people around the world. Glastonbury does that. Lollapalooza does that. And those moments are unbelievable. You get to talk to the whole world. So,
and the audiences are worldwide. Yeah. I mean, Karol G on Coachella, and then, you look at Blackpink who did Coachella. I mean, there's so many, artists that are, global, and that's also great for our business. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's grown our business incredibly, not only domestically, as foreign artists come in here, but the same way pushing out, American artists around the globe. It's what's most exciting about what's happening right now. Mm-hmm.
And one other thing that's cropped up in the last 5 years that presents a really interesting opportunity for artists in the live music space is Sphere in Vegas. What are the special circumstances that you have to keep in mind when an artist that you're working with wants to play Sphere?
I mean, it's such a unique venue and such a unique experience that you really have to have a vision for what you're trying to do and understand what you're trying to convey. I think the more shows that play and the more people see it, they understand it better, and everyone uses it differently. I had the privilege to be there before U2 even opened, and Zach Brown came with me. He wanted to see it, and literally walked out of the room and said, "I'm playing here." Like, I know I have this in my head. I see exactly what I want to do, and now, he's going to be doing 8 shows there in December. But it takes a visual artist and an artist who really understands what they're trying to say. And I think you two did a great job opening it. The Eagles show was fantastic. What John Mayer did in creating the film behind the Grateful Dead show or the Dead & Co. shows, absolute genius. I mean, he really took you on a trip for those 4 hours. My hope is that people who see something in the Sphere just get excited and want to see more music. Because I think if you have a good experience in a concert, you want to do it again. The epitome of probably that is going to open the door to a lot of artists is the Backstreet Boys. They, with their management, they were playing just a regular showroom there, and someone said, "Let's go," and they created truly one of the most fun nights of music.
Yeah, I went.
There.
It was fun.
It's really fun, and the visuals so fit who they were, and everyone there walked out with a big smile on their face. Yeah. And that's what you want to see happen. And I have no doubt. There's a pun. No doubt going. It's going to create the same environment. People are going to walk out going, "Wow, that was incredible."
Yeah.
So, but similar to a giant festival, you're eventizing an experience where you can say, "I was there. I saw U2 in the first show at the Sphere," and you're creating and eventizing something and making it so much larger, which is what the Sphere is. It's just so much larger than a regular concert.
When I saw Backstreet Boys, I mean, they were celebrating the 20th anniversary of Millennium, their album. I thought that was such a great way to remind people of their greatness, of what they did 20 years ago. And they also introduced Millennium 2.0, the second, iteration of this album while they were doing that. And I thought that presented such a great opportunity for a legacy artist to kind of create an event around an anniversary and to kind of drive attention back to one of their greatest moments. But I feel like there's a lot of opportunities right now for legacy artists that are really interesting. I saw ABBA Voyage in London, a year or so ago. I'm wondering what you guys think are some of the exciting opportunities on the landscape in live music for your legacy artists.
Well, legacy or heritage or whatever we call them, they never go away. There's something about music that literally defines your youth. And so been millions of articles written about the fact that most people consume music between 16 and 25. Yep. That's the soundtrack of their life, right? Doesn't mean they won't hear a new thing here or there, but they really build their body of work. So, as someone in my 60s, the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and the Who were what formed my childhood. Someone today who's 20, it's going to be Taylor Swift and Dua Lipa and Sabrina Carpenter and Conan Gray and all these, The Weeknd. And 20, 30 years from now, that's going to be their artists that they look at and can't wait to go back to feel young again, because it makes you feel young. And that's the power of music. No other art form transports you back in time. So how do you take advantage of those moments? You need artists who are creative. I'm not a big fan of anniversaries past 20 because I don't want to date the audience. I don't want when you say 50 years, then the audience immediately looks in the mirror and goes, "Oh shit, how old am I?" So
I was like, I remember being there 50 years ago. Yeah.
So I'm not sure I'm always an anniversary person. Yeah. But I love when artists celebrate who and what they are. Paul McCartney does. He's a Beatle and he owns it, and those shows are incredible. Bruce never fails to give you that same experience. We finally convinced John Mellencamp to do a greatest hits tour. So he's going to go out and sort of do, that incredible catalog of music the way the public wants to hear it. And so finding a way to market it. The best part is, we have the privilege to work with AC/DC along with Chris Dalston. And if you went to the show last summer in the stadiums, it was 3 generations. It was grandfathers, fathers, and their sons all watching this band do this incredible rock show. And that's the beauty of music. That's when legacy really kicks in, when you start to bring, and there were a lot of young girls at Backstreet Boys, moms bringing their daughters to see it. So
also, something, social media, which obviously drives, a younger audience in pop music, but you saw with the Goo Goo Dolls, who we don't represent, and the TikTok explosion of Iris, they had the biggest year in their career. Ever. That's so crazy. It can work other ways as well. And you see bands take hold and grow like we've never seen before, which is also really fun and exciting. And it's totally genreless that you're seeing this happen. It's hard rock and metal, and it's pop, like with the Backstreet Boys and Goo Goo Dolls. I mean, it's incredible. And even the whole Grateful Dead thing. I mean, it's like the audience is, they've been around for 60 years. Right. And you see where that is headed now, and what the age limit of the audience, and half the people haven't even saw a show with Jerry Garcia.
Yeah. So true. I mean, we were talking earlier about how artists are really upping the production value of their shows, going up to, sometimes up to 60 trucks worth of equipment that they're lugging around with them across the country on their tours. I mean, we're also talking about the rising costs of touring. I imagine that it makes it really hard for an artist to make a statement and to keep up with everyone, but also still make money, I imagine. Is that an increasing challenge for your artists to be able to make money on their touring? And how does that differ depending on how big the artist is? Like, are big artists making tons of money and small artists are just scraping by the whole time? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
Funny enough, I think the economics are similar as you're carrying so much on the top level and just the expense of when you're not making as much on the lower level. I would say artists are doing just fine. That's a great thing, else you wouldn't see them all on the road. At the same time, it's management. You have to manage, what you carry, how many people in a crew that you carry. You have to manage, as Rob said earlier, how long of drives you're doing, how many days in a row, how many shows per week, all the things that we factor in to building a tour and building a tour budget. And then kind of figuring out how you price it out. Do you need, some of these massive tours have 2 rigs. They have an A rig and a B rig, and they jump from city to city ahead of the next show, which saves money in terms of setting up production. In stadiums, you'll notice, if you now pay attention, a lot of back-to-back shows in stadiums. So AC/DC can share the stage with Billy Joel back-to-back, somewhere, to save costs and not having to, entirely put up all new steel and terraplast on the floor of the stadium. So there's ways that we're trying to figure out how we can, save costs and be smart as we kind of route and book tours, and working with promoter partners to figure that out.
And not everybody needs the giant productions. Bruce Springsteen has 1 video screen and the music delivers. So for a lot of these artists, it's just finding the right setting and being aware of who your audience is and what it is, or then creating a package. The Charlie XCX Troye Sivan package, that was 1 stage, 1 set. And they came together and figured out how to use it together, and everybody did great. So costs are going to go up. It's sort of what drives ticket prices. But a lot of smart people out there trying to make it work, and not everybody is trying to compete with the next person. Now, if you're Taylor Swift or Beyonce, you've created this holier than that big event, so you sort of have to live up to that in a way. And sometimes I think that's why artists totally switch and just go play small, because they realize they can be intimate and create the same sort of thing. So we're always trying to give artists different options on how to go out there.
And I mean, as well as the cost of touring rising, we're also seeing ticket prices rise as well. I know that Bruce Springsteen did try dynamic ticketing a few years ago, and that led to some of the tickets ending up being thousands of dollars. I'm wondering now, a few years later, like reflecting back on that, how do you feel about dynamic ticketing as a model for big tours?
Bruce got a really bad rap because at that same time that one guy bought a ticket at a high price, Elton John and the Rolling Stones were charging tickets for twice the price. But because he was a working man, somebody took a shot at him. There's always going to be supply and demand. There just is. And what we've tried to create, and all the ticketing companies have tried to create, is the closest way to be fair, but where the money's going to the artist, right? If we're going to do dynamic pricing and you're buying a ticket at a higher price, but the artist is getting paid, he or she deserves that. They've built that career. What we hate is when, scalpers and bots and StubHubs and all these middle people now are making money with no skin in the game. They did nothing other than got a ticket and now they're reselling it. The artist doesn't see any of that money. So some of that allows for these bigger productions. The Platinum and the VIP helps drive the ability to do these great shows. And if you look at a lot of artists, they're still putting out tickets at $175, $125 at the top to allow some of their fans to still be able to afford to go, which I think is great. But I'm a fan of dynamic pricing simply because it allows everybody to be equal in the process of, if I can afford it, if it's the show I want to see, I get to pay for it. But I want to see the artist get paid. I don't want to see some outlier, carpetbagger get paid.
Yeah, arbitraging tickets somewhere. It's, which definitely is not fair to the artist or the industry in general.
Yeah, absolutely. The federal government is attacking Ticketmaster on multiple fronts right now. This includes the FTC suing the company, and it has to deal with resale. I'm wondering, do you think that Ticketmaster should play a part in resale? And if they do, does there need to be a cap on the secondary market?
On platinum ticketing, most artists have a cap on what they allow.
Okay.
The tickets to sell for, whether it's 2 times value, usually that's the range, 2 to 3 times value. So even if the secondary ticketing market exceeds that, it doesn't feel like it's so, harsh. But as far as the secondary ticketing market isn't going anywhere. This was one of Rob's stories, but I'll tell it. Years and years ago, AC/DC was doing a tour. And they go out on the road and they're like, we're going to sell all tickets paperless. So you're going to have to walk in with your credit card, scan your credit card at the door. They're going to see your name. You go into the venue. And they're going to beat scalpers and they're going to finally win. What ends up happening? The scalpers send gift cards to their own people who bought tickets. And they walk in with a gift card, scan the tickets, and they beat, AC/DC's brilliant idea to get rid of scalpers. They are always going to find a way to get ahead, be it bots, be it AI, whatever it is. Our responsibility as agents is to figure out ways that as much money stays with the artist. And that's the job of the promoters, and be it Live Nation or AEG or any festival or anyone promoting shows, is that we do our best within anything we can do that makes sure that the artists are being paid for what they're doing. That's our job.
Yeah, and the DOJ is also going after Ticketmaster for antitrust violations. Could you guys actually foresee Ticketmaster and Live Nation getting broken up? And if so, how do you think that would affect what you guys do and in the touring market moving forward?
I'm not going to comment on an ongoing investigation or what may or may not happen, because I find predicting the future is sort of a fool's errand these days.
That's fair. After the pandemic, that is fair.
But here's what I will say. And Rick and I have worked together over 30 years. The industry changes in waves that nobody can anticipate. And we adapt to what those changes are and try to get ahead of them. And if you go into it with one mindset, I'm going to do what's best for the artist and what's best for the fan, because that is the holy grail, putting an artist and a fan together. If those are what I'm working towards, we'll adapt to whatever happens and we'll push back against it. I don't know what the outcome of the DOJ investigation will be. there are things that I think all of us would like to see changed in how certain venues operate and how sports leagues operate. It's impossible to get dates in April and May because of the playoffs, because the leagues won't compromise in terms of what dates they can hold. We deal with it. Would I love to change that and say, pick a date and let us have the other ones? Of course. And we fight it every year. But if we keep our mission in mind, which is help young talent grow, help superstars make the most money they can, help legacy acts stay relevant as long as they can, and we make sure the fans having a great experience and feels connected to their artist, then that's our job, and we'll adapt. It always feels like people say, well, the industry is going to change. It's not going to look the same. At the end of the day, there's still somebody sitting in the front row, screaming their head off, having a great time, and for the foreseeable future, that's never going away. So.
And as a representative of the artist and ultimately fans, it's just transparency. People just want to know what it is that they're getting and that it looks clear as to what they were promised when they bought a ticket or whatever. And the artist, the same thing. So as long as there's transparency, the business will continue to roll.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so before I end our conversation, I wanted to do a little bit of a rapid fire question round for you guys before you guys take off. So my first rapid fire question is, what is the craziest request you've seen on an artist writer?
I've seen so many, I can't remember all of them, to be honest. So my memory's not that good. I mean,
I will say that once a manager asked at a hotel for 1,200 thread count sheets. I thought that was a pretty good one.
It's funny that it's the manager in particular. What is the most shocking live music moment that you've watched from the crowd?
I assume you mean shocking, good or bad.
I don't know.
I'm going to tell you good, because I'm always looking for that moment where an artist and the audience are so in sync with each other. And, I get asked my favorite shows, and I always say 3 or 4 of them. But Bruce Springsteen had split from the E Street Band for about 3 or 4 years. And then they came back and they played 13 nights at Giant Stadium. Unprecedented even to this day. And he walks out, he does an incredible show, the band's back together, and he hadn't played Rosalita in 10 years, which was sort of one of the signature songs. And does the set, does the first series of encores, goes off, comes back out, and see, I'm getting goosebumps already. And all he says to the crowd is, what do you think, is tonight the night? And 60,000 people knew exactly what he meant. And when he hit the first chord of Rosalita, I thought the building was going to fall down. It was so loud. And those moments, that's what it's all about. That magic moment that you just, nothing else can capture. And so, I think about that all the time. I live for those moments. And I gave you 20 examples of that when, a special guest comes out or an artist comes out and sings with another artist, or just something magical happens. And those are just undeniable.
How could I top that?
What's a show that marked a turning point in your career?
Well, for me, it was convincing Barbra Streisand to go on tour after 27 years, and being there that first night with her, it was again one of my favorite moments. But that was a pivotal point, and to watch that unfold and watch this genius go out and sing again was truly magical. But the flip side is, every time you walk into a club and you see something and go, you're seeing something special, and we're seeing Bryan Adams 40 years ago play a club in Albany, or seeing Dua Lipa play a 200-seat club here in LA, or I was in New York, I don't know, it must be 15 years ago, because one of our young agents said, go check out this band downstairs at Webster Hall, and there's this 2-piece band playing a 200-seat room. And I walked out and said, this is the best live band I've seen in 10 years. And it was 21 Pilots.
That's what I was going to guess.
Right? And it was just, oh, my God. And there's no better joy of being an agent than having that moment. No.
I just saw 21 Pilots. They were fantastic. That was the first time I'd ever seen them.
Yeah, they're unbelievable live.
Yeah.
I think for me, I think the turning point, years ago, represent and still represent Eric Clapton, and he did a blues tour in clubs. And him playing Buddy Guy's Place in Chicago and getting my parents to see that show meant a ton, as you know, that was a place where I'd gone my whole life as a kid, so that was a huge moment in my agent career.
What is an important piece of concert etiquette that you live by that you see people ignore?
I hate phones. I mean, I really, it's incredibly distracting to the people around you as well as the artist. I know that that's something we're going to be living with the rest of my life, and you know, have children who probably stand there with their phones up in the air. But I think, you know, as we talk about experience and we talk about sharing the moment and we talk about all these great things about live music, put it down and enjoy the moment, because you're not going to forget it. And it's so important for a generation well younger than me to understand that, you know, remembering Bruce Springsteen, The Bottom Line, or Cheap Trick in, you know, in Chicago, that is the memory, and it's not going to be a memory that you're sharing with your friends like this.
From an agent's perspective, the one piece of etiquette, I'm a huge believer. If you go to a show, you stay till the end, right? Because if you see the artist before you see the manager and you're not there at the end of the night, what are you saying? Wasn't that good? Wasn't that important? I had somewhere else to be. So if you're going to go cover a show, be there when it's over.
Finally, a quality that all your best clients have in common.
For so many years, I've said this. Brilliant artists, great artists, hear and see things differently than we do. And it's so hard to put your fingers on it. You know, when you sit with Stevie Wonder and he's tapping his fingers or he hears a windshield wiper, he's hearing it differently than we are. You see it differently than we do. And the greatest of the great, they work in a different way. Their vision and their hearing and how they assimilate all of that into the great music we hear, it's indescribable. And when you get to be near it, I'm still in awe. You know, 50 years later, I'm just amazed by how they do it. I don't. It's like a magic trick, as Bruce would say. And boy, when they're good at it, there's nothing like it.
Rick?
Listen, you know, it's so much. It's talent, it's drive, it's understanding the zeitgeist. It's that special thing that Rob describes that you can't put a finger on. It's creating mystery. There's so much that goes into it that is what pulls everybody in. And as music evolved from, you know, me looking at album covers to clicking through Spotify songs, it's just, you know, the ability to grab someone's attention and make it personal, is, you know, in, you know, be it any genre of music, it makes it personal. Is such a gift that you can walk away feeling like you're connected and something moved you.
I say to young agents all the time, and to young artists, you can teach people to sing, you can teach them to dance, you can teach them to play an instrument, even write a song. You can't teach charisma. And that if factor is so special. And, you know, the best A&R men, the best managers, the best agents have an ability to see it. And when you see it, when you feel it, you're just pinned to the wall. And I could rattle off 50 names, I won't. But when you do, you go, oh, I'm seeing something unique. And you can't teach that to people. They either have it or they don't.
It's very true. It's very true. And so finally, as I ask all of my guests on this show to do, we are going to make a playlist where I'm going to have you guys pick 3 songs based on some prompts. So the first prompt is, what is a song that you can no longer gatekeep?
This is a really impossible question for me, so I'm just going to go totally vague. I've been in a total Warren Zevon, you know, moment, and then watching him be inducted in the Hall of Fame, obviously, post his passing. The performance of Excitable Boy, that to me is, you know, just a moment I'm going through right now. The Killers, who were
yeah, they did a great job.
crushed that.
I'm a Linda Ronstadt fanatic, and I think her version of "I Will Always Love You," which came out years before Whitney's, is the greatest version of that song. And so, not Dolly's version, not Whitney's, not everyone else who's tried to sing it. The Linda Ronstadt version of "I Will Always Love You" is remarkable.
Great pick. What is a favorite throwback?
Oh, God, it's impossible. I'm a Bruce Springsteen fanatic. I'm a Stevie Wonder fanatic. I'm a John Mellencamp fanatic. So I'm, all of those songs. I love songs that look back. I love "Glory Days" by Bruce Springsteen.
Listen, I'm just going to go, since we talked about it, "I Want It That Way" by the Backstreet Boys.
There we go.
Everyone gets a feeling when they hear that.
Max Martin's finest, And finally, what is a guilty pleasure for you guys?
I love 60s pop music. I am a throwback to the 60s. So I drive my daughter crazy listening to the 60s channel on Sirius because I just love the innocence of everything, that came out and watching it evolve. So, I'm still a Beatles fanatic, but I love all those pop bands, Dave Clark 5, everything from the 60s. I've dated myself tremendously right now, but there was just an innocence to music I miss.
I am a massive hard rock and metal fan. From Iron Maiden to UFO to Rush to, every artist that came out of that genre. I'm on a text chain with about, 12 different people in the business who represent a variety of artists, and that's all we talk about.
Wow. I love that.
And that's how you build a great agency, because you have agents who all love different genres of music, but can help each other appreciate it. And I think that's what we've done at CAA. We've got this incredible collection of people who like all sorts of different things. And if you had 3 other people here, they'd all have different playlists with as much passion. So.
Yeah, that's what I love about Billboard too. We have all these people who specialize in different genres, and I'm always learning something new. And it's nice to be around people who have totally different tastes than you sometimes. So,
it's fun as an agent because we're not, so categorized in who we represent that you can represent, AC/DC and Bruce Springsteen, or you can represent Iron Maiden and Santana, and it actually makes it really interesting because you can kind of take on everything.
Since we're on the heels of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, when I have the privilege to be on the nominating committee, and the joy of being in that room every year when we sit down to nominate is you have 30 plus music individuals, executives, artists who are so passionate about what they love because they're nominating somebody, and they're so inspired that I always leave going to listen to 20 albums I've never listened to because someone has pitched them to be in the Hall of Fame with such passion and fervor that I want to explore. And even as long as I've done it, I still spend Sunday afternoons listening to music, things I haven't heard or new music coming out, because you never stop enjoying the process of it. So,
Yeah, well, this playlist will be updated on Spotify with your picks, or at least some picks from the artists that you mentioned. But Rick Roskin, Rob Light, thank you so much for coming to On The Record and spending some time with me.
Thank you so much.
Right. Another special thank you to Rob Light and Rick Roskin for coming on the show and sharing their insights with us. It's great to get a pulse on how the live music scene is changing from some of the best in the business. And now, up next, we're going to be diving into our charts roundup, where we'll highlight this week's biggest movers and shakers. Here's the Billboard Hot 100 Top 10 for the week of November 15th. Number 10 is a Halloween re-entry, Thriller by Michael Jackson. Number 9 is I Got Better by Morgan Wallen. 8 is Mutt by Leon Thomas. 7th this week is Folded by Kehlani. Daisies by Justin Bieber comes in at number 6. Man I Need by Olivia Dean comes at number 5. Number 4 this week is Opalite by Taylor Swift. Number 3 is Ordinary by Alex Warren. Number 2 is Golden by Huntrix. And for its 5th week at the top of the Hot 100 chart, this week's number 1 is The Fate of Ophelia by Taylor Swift. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of On The Record. And another special thank you to our guests, Rob Light and Rick Roskin, for coming by. If you liked today's show, please consider hitting us with a rating, a follow, a thumbs up, all those good things. They really help our show grow and reach new people. Again, I'm your host, Kristin Robinson, and tune in next week for another peek behind the curtain of the music business. I'll see you then.